Hello, welcome back to another video. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. Make sure to smash a like and subscribe if you are new. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. And today we are just breaking down how West Ham play, how West Ham have been playing, and how West Ham could play with, everyone involved and stuff like that, with the players that are coming into the team, that may be integrated into the team, etc. But yeah, overall, we're just going to get into everything. Obviously, like yesterday, I gave you guys my thoughts on how Lopetegui's doing so far in the first 3 games in the Premier League and 4 games in all competitions. If you haven't watched that video, go and check that out. If you haven't already, we're trying to upload as frequent as possible. And it's very hard to when there's international breaks. I don't know how much content I can put out there, but we're trying as much as possible. But overall, when it comes to the tactics, I've only really been happy with the tactics so far in the Man City game where we actually lost. Obviously, in the Crystal Palace game, I think it was all right. In the Bournemouth game, right setup, wrong players. In the Villa game, totally wrong, totally wrong. Um, Obviously, when it comes to the way we play in general, just overall, obviously last season and the past few seasons that we've been used to our team playing a very low block, 11 men behind the ball, 11, all of them behind the ball, uh, against any team. I think the problem last season as well was, the problem with Moyes specifically was as he got better players, he was getting even more defensive, which didn't make any sense. And after trying a half-hearted attempt into trying to change the style of play and realizing that he can't coach it, he thought the style of play was the problem. No, you was the problem. And that was in 2022, 23, the 22-23 season. And after that, in 2024, or the 23-24 season, he then got Kudus, Alvarez, Ward-Prowse, and Mavropanos. Only 4 signings, and then got, for some reason, Calvin Phillips in January as well. And these, apart from Calvin Phillips, these are all people that are good in possession. Ward-Prowse is decent in possession. He played in a possession-based side at times with Southampton under Hassan Hutel. It was just a different system, and he just passed it now. And he doesn't have the energy to play in this sort of midfield either, which we've addressed before. Mavropanos is somewhat comfortable, but he was more comfortable than what we had. Mohamed Kudus is a gem, a special player. And who else did I say? Edson Alvarez is a very good number 6. So it was a very good replacement for Declan Rice. We were replaced very well. Hasn't got the same the rapidness or speed with the ball to dribble with as Declan Rice does. That's the thing I'd say Declan Rice has over him. And I say better striker the ball, Declan Rice. But other than that, I think Edson Alvarez replaces all his other qualities very well. And probably has a better passer from deeper positions as well. Just analysing the two. But that's the problem last season. Whether it was approaching Man City away from home or Everton at home, we would play the same way. And when it comes to this season, Lopetegui, we know he's somewhat pragmatic, but he likes to play possession-based football, likes to keep his principles, as I mentioned yesterday as well. And that's what we kind of wanted. That's what I wanted in Ruben Amorim when we were linked to him as well. He has his style of play, but he keeps to his he has his pragmatism, but he keeps to his principles. It's the same with like Oliver Glasner, for example. Them kind of managers there, where they can be in a low block at times or they can press you, but they will keep to their principles no matter what. I think in his manager so far, let's address it game by game, and let's address the positives and negatives. So I talked about the second striker thing yesterday. It was pretty much we've played a 4-3-3 pretty much every game, but it's been a different kind of 4-3-3. Where, especially in the Aston Villa game and in the first half against Crystal Palace, it was pretty much we played with that second striker, which I addressed the problem yesterday with Thomas Souček being that second striker. I don't think anyone can really play the second striker role in our team. To be honest with you, I don't think we've got that team to be set up for playing that kind of way. And I think the problem is that even though the intention is to pass out from the back and stuff, a lot of it was down the channels, down the sides, etc. I think that was a big problem where someone like a Max Kilman, someone like a Lucas Paquetá, for example, wants to pass in between the lines, but We kept going down the side because of that lack of third midfielder, which was severely hindering the team in build-up play. And yes, we've seen it. We saw it in preseason as well that at times the Julian Lopetegui's team would like to go long as well. But when you're looking at the whole build-up play in general, yes, you can build with a two-man midfield, and yes, you can build with the box. And what I mean by box, like the four connected together. Um, like a lot of teams do that with the three. They start with a three, and then they do with the two in front. Like even with that, so sometimes it's just a five, and sometimes there's a box. Like if you, a lot of the German managers play with the box, like the two centre backs and the two midfielders, kind of staying in that box, or then there's a box in front where they just have the two sixes and then the two number 10s. So they all link up in that box together. But we didn't do that. Like in this Lopetegui system, a lot of the times there isn't an out and out deep lying midfielder that's just one midfielder. They all roam around, all of them. So it kind of just all rotates. Even though Alvarez, you'll see most of the time, or Rodriguez at times, will be the most at picking up the ball and just trying to either drive it or pass it between the lines or just deliver the ball somewhere else. Sometimes there's going to be someone else going short for it. Like when you saw the goal against Manchester City, Kudus went all the way from his position to drop in there because he was running with the ball and he connected. Then he passed that ball into Paquetá and Paquetá into Bowen, which is a move we'd like to see a bit more. But going into this as well, the reason why, like, let's say, like Rodriguez and Paquetá, for example, they were the two midfielders wanted to go and receive the ball in the first two games that we saw. The problem with that is it was pretty much ended up becoming a 4-2-4 at times where Souček was literally next to Antonio. And listen, that's not Souček's fault because that's what he's been told to do. But the problem is that that tactic wasn't working because, as I said yesterday, we were passing a lot of the ball short and then we'll go long, they're losing the ball, they're not winning the second ball, which is another point I addressed yesterday. But that just severely hindered any intention to keep the ball wasn't being shown because of that. Any intention to open up teams and build up play was shown because of that. Like it was a lack of that. There was a lack of insight, like incisiveness. I think that's the right thing. I think that's the right word. Decisiveness as well. Like the lack of proper attacking intention to really go at teams and just pass in between the lines from there. And you can really open up teams by passing through the middle. And yes, passing through the middle was the most risky thing you could do. Well, one of the most risky things you could do in football. But as long as you know how to pass 5 yards, you should be fine. You should be fine and not rush it and just take your time. That's the whole point to do with patience because that's how you don't lose the ball. If you look at even the way Manchester City played, everyone that was in the ground would have seen it a lot more from a tactical point of view, where you're just so high up in the stadium that you can see everything that's going to happen already, and you can see the way what they're looking at like 10 seconds ahead of everyone else because they've got about 4 passes on every time someone receives the ball unless your press is very aggressive. That's the reason why Jurgen Klopp did so well against Pep, for example, because they pressed in a way that nobody else could, and they were so aggressive with it, and they just cut off every passing lane possible. And that's how you get at Manchester City. You're not going to get at them by playing a low block. Yes, they can expose you in behind as well, and that's why they're the best team because no matter how you play, they can probably expose you anyway. But you can only really play the low block against them if you have really, really intelligent defenders, and we don't. Like we have good defenders, we don't have really, really world-class intelligent defenders. That's why Arsenal did so well against them in both of the games they played. They didn't concede a goal against Manchester City, where it's a bit different. And sometimes you might just get lucky, and like Man United did an FA Cup final and just defend really well on the day, for example. But they also had Rafael Varane, who's a very intelligent defender. So that's the way you need to get at City if you want to defend in a low block, but you want to keep the ball in their box, in their half. And going back to the way we were playing in the first 2 games, obviously, as I said, it wasn't working. Like at times we do want to go long. As I said, Kilman is the only one that could put it right on a sixpence on where a player can pass. Everyone else is just hitting it into areas. Where Mavropanos is just hitting it into an area. Again, when he was here, was just hitting it into an area. I don't know. As I said yesterday as well, I don't know what Tadima's passing's like. So we're going to see. But also, what helps us is the better players that we've signed and the better players that are getting more of a chance within this team as well. So, if you, for example, if you look at as I said yesterday, I was every time I complained about Vladimir Sufa, for example, it's always been about the distances between him and Bowen, because Sufa wants to put the ball in behind when Wan-Bissaka and Bowen wants to go short. So that has really helped our build-up players recently. Yes, people like myself and a lot of Manchester United fans have been critical, and when it comes to Aaron Wan-Bissaka in possession and stuff like that as well. But he's proven me wrong so far. He's proven me wrong. He's played out. I've said he can play out the press at times, but I didn't think he could do it like consistently. And we'll see if he can still. But I was wrong about Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Like I've admitted that about 5 times now. When it comes to linking up with players, etc., as well, he done really well with that with Jared Brody. He really helped us build up and play down the flanks. Same with Emerson. We already know Emerson could do this because he was doing it last year. He just wasn't playing in a system where he was allowed to do it more. That's why him and Paquetá linked up so well. But yeah, in the Villa game as well. Let's talk about something off the ball that happened as well. Like as the game went on, and as the second half panned out, we actually came up worse, I'd say, in the second half than we did in the first half, and that was saying a lot. And the thing is, the problem is as well, you can't really judge it fully, I guess, on the tactics for that game because the problem was the corner, and you can't let Villa take the lead early, especially when they're away from home as well, because they like to slow the game down. They wait for you to press, so we don't press aggressively when it's their first line of play. We're only pressing in midfield, which is a big problem in my opinion, and it's a big problem when you're not really committing to the press against someone like an Aston Villa who are too comfortable in possession, like someone like a Pau Torres as well. You saw the way Pau Torres did Paquetá and Bowen in possession as well, the way he dribbled out. That's what happens when you don't fully commit. You got players like that that are intelligent and they can see it. They can see all of that from a mile off anyway. So that was a big problem for, in my opinion, as well. But when you look at the team in general, it's a good team, and it shouldn't be playing like that. And another problem is that I've talked about its pragmatism before, and we talked about this in the match reaction to the Aston Villa game. But the problem with that specific game was, as they were creeping into the game in the second half, obviously they like to hug the touchline with their fullbacks anyway, mainly with their left back at this current moment in time, which is Ian Matson or Luca Digne. I think Ian Matson would be the first choice coming into the future because that guy is just a special player, a man who I wanted when Burley signed him. And even last year in the summer where we should have got a left back and we still should have got a left back, but Aaron Cresswell's still here for whatever reason. And what's it called? The reason why I'm singling out their left hand side is because when Ian Matson came on, Jared Bowen was told to mark him, and he was told to mark Luca Digne when the last like 10 minutes of his cameo as well. But so we could end up defending in a five because they were stretching us like pretty much like a wing back like point of view, and the pitch was fully stretched. The problem I have with that is that's fine, and you're telling Sufa to tuck in as a makeshift centre back at times anyway. But then the other tactic was for him to get pretty much man mark Ramsey as he was a winger, but he was a second number 10. So they're pretty much being man marked on the left hand side. And that's pretty much where the goal came from before Duran. That's where the goal came from. Too tight, not following your man. Because if you've got to defend like that, you have to follow your man at all times. So that's the problem with the system, because naturally you see in every system, no one follows their third man run all the time. No one does that. That's why people use the third man run so much. Because unless they've only been trained to defend like a Sean Dyche team, for example, or maybe an Eddie Howe team at times when they're going away to a big six club, they've been told to follow the man at all times. And only at times can that really happen when you've pocketed them throughout the whole 90 minutes. And really, it should be. You should be pocketing them throughout the whole 90 minutes. But you see in every game that doesn't happen. So that's a big problem. That's not a big problem now, but that was a big problem in that game. That's where the goal came from. But we're going to see his pragmatism at times. He likes to adjust off the ball depending on the team. Against City, it was a bit different. We went pretty much man to man in midfield, which is a similar thing to what Moyes did at the Emirates and at White Hart Lane against Tottenham and Arsenal, which did kind of work, to be fair. And Edson Alvarez was very good at their job, very good at his job for both games in that. And I mean, we really won those two games because they missed their chances, but we also did defend well both of those games as well last season. Now, with the Crystal Palace game, I remember when we faced them in pre-season. What's it called? Off the ball, we played a 5-3-2. And on the ball, we played a 4-2. Well, we played a 4-3-3. But it was because of the personnel we had. A lot of players played in a what's it called? A system where maybe you wouldn't benefit more of playing in possession at times. That's because we were playing a lot of players that hadn't played in a preseason friendly before. Like so, because we played a behind closed doors friendly against Crystal Palace against their youngsters to get some people up to fitness, and some first team players played in that. And then later in the day, we played, Cresswell and Emerson at the same time. We had a midfield of Potts, Ward Prowse, and Souček. And Souček didn't even play badly. He actually played well in both of the Crystal Palace games in terms of Souček played well in the second half of the league game against Crystal Palace and in the pre-season game. But that was mainly because of winning the ball high up the pitch, which he's good at winning the ball. We've known this, but that's not why we criticise him. And I just think it's common sense why we criticise him. We're not going to go on about it until we face another game where he plays, because we're bound to have the same problems when he plays. And we know what's going to make or break this system and what's going to make or break this manager when it comes to his tactics, etc. But looking at that game in general, obviously they play a 3-4-2-1. And there's sometimes a 5-2-2-1 off the ball and stuff to cut off all the spaces so they don't get stretched, etc. The thing is, they can be got still at times because they do dedicate a lot of players high up the pitch, and then you can hit them on the counter, which is what we did twice, which is what worked as well. Because sometimes they do like to press as well. Wan-Bissaka was very good at getting out of that first press. The problem is in the first half when we played that game is we played exactly like we did against Villa with the exact same lineup. So it didn't work in the first half. He switched it up in the second half and played to his normal midfield three. Souček was still advanced, but the only time Souček was advanced was winning the ball high up the pitch to win the ball back off the defenders. And don't get me wrong, that's what got him a yellow card as well. He actually nearly got sent off in that because he literally committed to another challenge straight after he got a yellow card. And nearly got himself sent off. It was slightly rash from him, which is actually kind of uncharacteristic from him. But he was winning the ball high up the pitch very well. He's good off the ball, but he's not off the ball merchant, a bit like a lot of these players. And when they play in possession as well, they've got people that can pass it between the lines. The Adam Whartons, the Mark Gaye's from centre back, etc. As well, the Chaddy Riyadh, who's injured now, but they were fisting the ball into Eze and stuff. What we really did well off the ball as well is that whether whoever was we weren't man marking, so it's whoever's there at the time, that's your man. It wasn't a specific man mark situation. And we couldn't do that because they were playing with two number 10s and two wing backs. We don't want to play three at the back. Thank God for that. And there was no Jared Bowen at wing back, and apart from the first half to help Soufal. But they didn't really get at Soufal that much. It was just mainly him in possession. That was a problem, a big problem in the first half. Adam Wharton was fine until we got at them in the second half. But my thing is, when I was talking about the man mark situation, is that, for example, like an Eze, he was in the left 10 role. Now, Rodriguez at times was there, pocket him, distribute the ball forwards. And at times it was Soufal, get the ball off him, distribute the ball forwards. And sometimes it was Mavropanos, get the ball, distribute the ball forwards. Mavropanos and Kilman, by far the best players on the pitch in that game. And shout out to Wan-Bissaka as always. And we defended well. The only time Kilman was got out was a ball in behind for Edouard. And obviously, knowing odds on Edouard, he doesn't finish it. Excuse me. But looking at the game in general, obviously the reason why I changed in the second half, went back to the midfield three, stuff like that. And it's the normal midfield three, the way it's structured, the way Lopetegui wants it as well. And the defense was still good. And the attack was fine. Now, the advantages of this was, I can't remember who else came. It was Fulkrug and Wan-Bissaka that both came on. Wan-Bissaka had more of an impact than Fulkrug did. Don't get me wrong, Fulkrug did have an impact, but it was just at times. It was just the bare minimum. We're praising him for doing the basics, and we kind of had to because he barely had the ball, but whatever. But the difference Wan-Bissaka made when he came on was not just a 1v1 defending, because he was actually really good 1v1 defending. Tyrick Mitchell didn't really have much to go at. He ran out of ideas just coming up against Wan-Bissaka, but it was that situation where Wan-Bissaka had the ball that led to the Souček goal, which was winning the ball, getting past Mitchell, getting past Kamada, waiting for the ball, two people on him, and he passes the ball. And that patience in possession was what I was talking about earlier when I was talking about when I was talking about passing through the middle and stuff. It's those pockets of space where players when they play through the press, they're patient and then they look at the specific gaps that they're playing through. Look at the specific gaps where they can play it in between in risky situations. And that's what, even though the Wan-Bissaka pass doesn't look as risky as we think when we're viewing the game, because we're viewing it where everyone else can view it, we're viewing it from no player perspective. From a player perspective where he's facing it, he's thinking, okay, I've nearly lost the ball here. I'm going to be patient with it and just stretch out and poke that pass through to Bowen. It's a bit more intelligent than people think. And then that leads to the goal. It's that kind of passing that's going to help you fit into this sort of side. And obviously Alvarez helps when he comes back as well. Obviously we win the Crystal Palace game, but off the ball it was fine. It was fine. Like the wingers were helping out the fullbacks well, mainly more Bowen. I think Bowen has been told to track back a bit more than Mohamed Kudus, but that's because we probably don't want Kudus as much in our defensive play as possible, even though he does track back. But I don't think the wingers are ordered to track back as much unless they're in certain games. But I think when we play three at the back, it's more the midfielders that need to fill in the gaps in between the defenders rather than the wingers to help the wing backs. So then we go into the Bournemouth game, and the thing is with the Bournemouth game, as I mentioned earlier, it was the right setup with the wrong players. Like I was talking about this midfield yesterday with Ward-Prowse, Alvarez, and Souček. There's no creativity in that. But it was a normal 4-3-3, so their attack didn't get the ball. It didn't get the ball. None of them did. And that's why when Paquetá came on, it's more of a creative situation. He was part of the. I'm pretty sure it's part of the goal. I could be wrong. Part of the goal that was illegally scored, but who cares? They robbed us. We could rob them. That's the thing with Paquetá. Let's get on to Paquetá now, because addressing the Bournemouth game and the Man City game where you came on and made yourself an impact and you showed yourself to be a key player in this side. However, in a Man City game, you was very wayward in a whole situation. My problem is Paquetá's highs in a Man City game were this high, and Paquetá's lows in a Man City game were this low, like even off screen. Like he was making stupid errors, basic mistakes, and that's the problem. That's the problem with him. Like you don't see it as much in this system. Don't get me wrong, but in that Man City game, it was so unneeded, and it was like basic stuff. So my problem is when I'm talking about this tactically, and that's the theme of this video, talking about the tactics and what we're trying to implement and shit like that. Paquetá, we can see, is very key towards the side. He can pick out a pass that nobody else in our team can pick out. Like whether that's short passes, long passes, etc., the through balls that nobody else are going to see. The problem is he doesn't want to do the basics. He just wants to be 100% risk and 0 reward or 50% reward. That is him. The reason why I say is he a problem is because as much as he could do that whole thing where you got our possession really well in the box and he passed the ball to Kudus, and then I'm pretty sure Kudus and Bowen passed to each other. That's when Kudus hit the post and he got at Rico Lewis and Kevin De Bruyne really well. He can also do stuff like the quick free kick stuff, or where he was on the edge of our box on the right hand side, then he long balls it to Emerson for no reason. Like that, like unfortunately, he's probably uncoachable, but that needs to be coached out of him. Now, where I say do we take him out? Let's say we take Paquetá out. Let's say we drop him. We put probably Kudus in the 10. We probably put Somerville on the left. We probably put Bowen on the right. That's what we should do anyway. I don't know if that's what the manager's going to do, but that's what we should do. Do we get the same creativity? Now, we probably get the same drive with the ball, because when Kudus is in the 10, it's a different 10. You're picking up the ball in position, you're still running up plays. His game doesn't change. It's just he's just changed the area and angle of where he's playing. It's not anything to do with his role, really. However, when you're looking at the type of 10, Kudus isn't putting the ball through as much as Paquetá. He can pass, but he's not finding the pass often. Sometimes, most of the time, he's looking to do the job himself. So you're not always going to get the ball off him. He probably passed the least out of all of our attackers, probably. With Paquetá, you can find the ball over the top. You can find the ball on the floor. So those are the differences between playing both of them at the 10. This is why I say when I was talking about play Paquetá deeper, is because he can receive the ball and just face one way, and boom, he's passed it between the lines. However, when he's playing with the 10, he's picking the ball up and then turning around with the ball, which allows him to take more risks, in my opinion. People are going to be like, well, if he's deeper up the pitch, you're more likely going to see him give the ball away anyway. But if he's playing deeper up the pitch, he ain't going to try as well. You never know if he's not going to try as much dumb shit all the time. With him, he can just have a basic job of I've received the ball, I turn it around, and then I just pass once. Whether as in he's coming to receive the ball of the 6, for example, and he's playing in a 10, he's turned around, and he's most likely going to try and swing the ball over the top, or just do a quick 1-2. And listen, if he was a slightly more consistent, we'd be talking about a really great player. But that's what brings him down from the conversations of the elites and the world class things, because you have all the ability to have it, to be a world class player in this era, but you don't have the consistency. You don't. I love him. I love Paquetá. I think he's key, but you don't have the consistency to be even deemed as that. That's what the difference is between the likes of, I guess the Kevin De Bruyne's in this league and stuff. That their final ball is so like dangerous that they can try that at any point anyway, so they can take that risk. Paquetá's final ball is very good, but it's not De Bruyne's. So that's going to consider whether it's a problem or not. The reason why I'm not going to hear Paquetá on the left, I'm going to break this down very quickly because I've talked about this many times. Him on the left with Emerson, fair enough. They've got good link-up play and stuff like that. But when they were both strictly playing off the left last year, they were missing a third-man run. They were passing the ball to each other, but nobody was running. They were just passing the ball to each other. They were linking up and then 1-2, and then what? They needed a third-man run. That's why you play Paquetá on the left of a midfield 3, and you play a Somerville, because Somerville is going to give you that third-man run. And Emerson will give you that third-man run coming off Somerville, because Somerville will hug the touchline. Paquetá will be in behind the play, and Emerson will make the third-man run. They will interchange. That's why you have Kudus on the other side, because him and Bowen could link up with Wan-Bissaka. The way I think we still need to play is like this. And Wan-Bissaka still, I know he's done well going forward, and he can still go forward, but mainly tucking in as in a back 3 in possession with Tadibo and Kilman, obviously Areola and goal. And then you got Rodriguez just in front. Paquetá slightly deeper. Could have slightly advanced, but it's still a midfield 3. And then the front 3 is the same. And Emerson is hugging a touchline, just not even just hugging a touchline, making runs of his own, having the freedom to make any kind of run that he really wants to. So that can really make us more unpredictable than we think. The reason why we need to play someone like a Fulkirk is because he will bring players in if you give him the ball on the floor. We only saw that once against Bournemouth because he only got the ball once on the floor. We kept knocking it in the air because of how good he is in the air. But just because he's good in the air doesn't mean we should be knocking it long all the time, because the guy's just as good with his feet, if not better with his feet, than he is in the air. It's the whole reason why he scored the goals against like PSG and stuff like that with them kind of finishes. He knocked it back in behind for Somerville, and then Somerville should have finished it because it got knocked straight way over the bar. And those kind of angles Somerville doesn't really do well in. But whatever. But that's the kind of player we need, because he will see that run. He will scan and see that run. I don't think Antonio can do that, because we've seen Antonio many times. Antonio brings you something a bit different. But the problem is with Antonio is that he's a lot of times he's down the channels, he's not in the box, because he's naturally not a striker. However, the reason why I wouldn't play him on the wing is because that man is too old to be tracking back and too old to be pressing as a winger to then be running back. That will hinder us so much off the ball. So I'm not trying to see Antonio off the left for much longer. Well, we haven't seen it in a while. I'm not trying to see it anymore either. The reason why I don't like this situation, and we're going to talk about the right-hand side situation. I've addressed this before. Bowen cannot play as a touchline winger in a 4-3-3, because all it does is just allow him to create for everyone else and not for himself. Now, if you play Wan-Bissaka there, then cool. It's fine. And then Bowen just in the pockets. That's fine. And people are going to be like, well, you just said Wan-Bissaka should tuck into a back 3. Yeah, but that doesn't mean he's going to stay there. I'm just mean in the first phase of possession. That means he can still go forward, just at times. But that's with Bowen tucking in when Wan-Bissaka goes forward. I'm not saying Wan-Bissaka needs to make the third man run from the inside that underlaps. and stuff like that. I'm not saying Wan-Bissaka should be doing that because that just hinders all of Bowen's game. Bowen can whip a crossing, but he's not fantastic at it. That's not his main attribute. His main attribute is shooting the ball from them inside channels, the goals against Crystal Palace, stuff like that. And obviously Carlos Soler brings a whole new balance to the game in terms of possession as well. So, like, it's probably not going to be Paquetá and Kudus in midfield ever. And I've addressed this many times before, and that'll be the last time I address it for a while. But Carlos Soler needs to play there instead. Because, for example, someone like a Souček was going to knock the ball long, and you saw in the Bournemouth game, he came short for the possession and gave away the ball because he can't play up for the back because his attributes are way different, and he wasn't signed to do that. He's just not doesn't. He's not going to fit this side. So we're going to need people like Todibo to trust more of his other new players and the players that we'd already need to build the team around. Like Alvarez is, the Paquetás and Kudus is in possession anyway, and then we can link up much more. We can find relationships on the pitch, and hopefully we see that team for a long time. But it's just whether this manager plays it, which is what I have doubts of, because I've seen his lineups, and his lineups have been quite questionable at times. And that's what's going to make this manager successful, is if he picks the right place. It's quite simple as that. Wan-Bissaka obviously has to play over Vladimir Coufal. Coufal cannot be a substitution. I addressed that yesterday. Carlos Soler needs to start. Alvarez needs to start as a 6. You probably still keep Paquetá. I don't think Paquetá is a problem, but that's just in the air. Obviously, yeah, cool. Kudus on the left, but I'd like him to get a bit more on the inside if you're going to play him off the left. Allow him to be in the pockets a lot more rather than playing on the touchline all the time, which is very annoying. But then again, Lopetegui's wingers don't play like that. You play Fulcrook and you play Jared Bowen. Jared Bowen does need to step up his performances as well. I don't think he started the season that well as well. So I'll be watching him closely. I'll be watching everyone closely as well. No biases. But make sure to like the video, people. Make sure to subscribe if you want to. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. So let's make sure we can make that happen as soon as possible. The social medias are in the description if you want to follow me. That's GVO Mikes on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and an email for the inquiries. I'll see you guys.